The nature of the Emerald Dream appears to have shifted over time. Whether this is through our understanding of it, or it was genuinely changed, remains to be seen. However, there are hidden clues that have been quite literally staring us in the face. Let's take a look together at how the current interpretation of the dream is not a huge retcon, but actually a clever explanation on its true purpose. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and come, take a seat by the fire. I will start with what solidified this long-held theory we had, and it leads to a more recent and rather unlikely place. To everyone's favourite expansion, the Shadowlands, to the Realms of Death. It was actually the cinematic reveal at the end of the Sepulchre of the First Ones. For the first time, we got to see the true destruction of a cosmic superpower. As the flesh burned from him, it exposed his true form. Remember that the runes of domination were carved upon him at a later date, in order to subjugate him after the rebellion. His actual form was that of a humanoid automa. Immediately we saw a connection to the half-buried, motionless statues that seemed to permeate the Emerald Dream. When we first began to encounter these statues in Legion, they always did seem anomalous, at odds with the rest of the aesthetic. While the Emerald Dream having architecture was not out of the realm of possibility, why humanoid statues? It was puzzling. Then we explored further into Zereth Mortis. We learned that Zabal was but a creation of the First Ones, a highly evolved and sentient automa that attempted to subvert his own purpose. But as we saw, he was not irreplaceable. His design was stored, along with many others. It was not just the blueprint of the Arbiter that was stored here, but the foundations for all of the Shadowlands. It was then that the other pieces of lore began to come together. The nature of the Emerald Dream began to make complete sense. It had not changed from what we were always told. It was exactly the same. A beautiful realm containing the blueprints for all life's wonders. However, instead of this just being for Azeroth and created by A&R, it was actually a blueprint for all life in the physical universe, and utilised by A&R. We first knew the dream extended well beyond the boundaries of Azeroth all the way back to the Burning Crusade. The Arakoa there had, due to a series of dark events, fallen under the sway of what they believed to be their true god, but was in fact an old god of unknown origin. It had convinced them to summon their other ancient god Anzu back to the physical realm, in order to use him to breach the Emerald Dream. While the details of this are less important, what is important is that this actually happened on the shattered world of Draenor, now known as Outland. The dream therefore extended far beyond what we first imagined. As we proposed in the earlier video, where we talked about the Great Cycle, how the Wild Gods, or lower, whichever you prefer to call them, were the literal base blueprints for wildlife. A brief reminder of this is we proposed that they are the base form of all life, designed to reach the physical world and seed their life from their forms. Whether through environmental factors, or perhaps through some innate necessity, their offspring change and evolve to suit the habitat, as life often does. We see this clearly with the Furbolg, or the Tuskar. They descend from a wild god, but have evolved past the base form. This idea that all life is a blueprint is most definitely not a new one. Even way back to classic World of Warcraft, and the story of the original Uldaman dungeon. This was the reveal that the dwarves were actually flesh-cursed creations of the Titan Forged. But it mentions that the earthen were one of the standard forms they used on planets. However, instead of biological matter, they used a resilient foundation, or elemental form, to better suit the situation on Azeroth. With small continuations in this side story over the years, especially in the Storm Peaks and Ulduar, and the discovery of the Forge of Wills, it was actually Pandaria that had the next most explosive reveal to the story. This was explored throughout the expansion, as we got the chance to delve multiple times into the Titan facility that ran throughout the entirety of Pandaria, the engine of Nalak Shah. This leads us to take a look at the horrific flesh-shaping practices of the Mogu. It was when Lei Shen stole what secrets he could from this place after the defeat of Ra that they began. However, since they did not even have a fraction of the knowledge required to truly utilize it, what secrets they gleaned from the engine proved to be more of a perversion of its true purpose. So how then does it relate to the Emerald Dream actually being a blueprint? Well, the answer is staring us in the face. The celestial star forms that we see in almost every Titan facility. The way the Mogu use lightning or Vita on them in order to warp the flesh of living creatures to this model. The celestial forms are the blueprints. When you look at it like this, the evidence begins to mount up, overwhelmingly so. If we look at Zereth Mortis, to the protoform synthesis machine, it shows this so clearly. We must find the necessary schematic which has the icon in our inventory of a constellation. The exact same blueprint style we see mimicked in the flesh shaping. The Emerald Dream, or the Plane of Life, storing the majority of these blueprints for not only creatures of their domain, but also the other realms, would make sense. These giants that we see then are likely the molds or schematics used by the first ones at the beginning of creation as we know it. What we see now is merely the echoes of this once unimaginable task. So one more question then remains. Why then, if we have covered so much how these constellation forms are the blueprints being used, not only by the Titans, but in the Zereths as well, and as we propose, the statues and the wild gods themselves are blueprints. Within the dream, why do they not appear as such? Well, this has also been explained by our recent forays into the realms of death. The dream by its very nature is malleable, to the person viewing it. We were told by the druids that once they had sufficient connection to nature, through that connection, they would just have to think to fly, or bend reality to their will. This permeable nature is what allows the schematics to be viewed in full, rather than purely in its star-like form. We see this when we flight travel through the in-between in the Shadowlands. Our mount has form where necessary, but the moment we travel through the gate, the form changes, peeling back the physical form to reveal the schematic within. Of course, the bonds of anima are more clearly visible there, as this creature is or was at least at some point alive, and thus has accumulated enough or was given enough anima in order to power the journey. But each realm interacts with these blueprints in different ways. A member of our Discord reminded us of something amazing, something that was so easily overlooked. Another hint to us all being some form of base constellation-like schematic. This is actually from the Battle Pet Stardust, that says on its text, "In the end, we are all wrought from stardust." Does this mean then that all beings in the universe have a schematic? Even the really, really unusual and strange? Could all these things have a purpose in the Great Machine? We are proposing yes. Of course, life is chaos, and all things can deviate from base design. But we only have to look at Hearthstone to see that even true madness and horror can have design. While Hearthstone is not completely canon, it is no secret that they work closely with the lore team and the artists. N'Zoth was first revealed there long before we saw him. Even the self-proclaimed god of death himself, Yogg-Saron, appears to have a schematic. And these ancient eldritch horrors being fit for purpose would make sense. Why then would the old god from Outland look an awful lot like S'thun? So in short, we do not believe the dream was retconned, not from its original intention. Yes, our understanding of its nature has changed, as well as learning the Titans were not responsible for its creation, but it is what it has always been. What do you think? Do you agree with our assumptions? Let us know in the comments, or the Discord, and don't forget to come back anytime.